Welcome back, everybody, to the Colorado Rockies franchise on MLB The Show 21. It's draft day here in Season 1. We've been waiting for this. Not as exciting as draft day in football, but a great chance to add some talent to a team that desperately needs it. I got some feedback about not getting everybody fully scouted here, and that's probably a good way to get at least some information on more players. I've done my best to make sure we can make the most of our first couple selections, but I wasn't really sure if we'd still have players that I scouted for later in the draft, so I'll work on that. I should be able to have more players scouted at least partially for Year 2's draft, which will be even more important because I imagine we're going to pick number 1. We've been terrible this year, but the Rockies weren't as bad in 2020. They still had Nolan Arenado in the shortened season. I thought we'd be selecting 8th, but we're actually selecting 11th. So here's the draft unfolding to start things out. Number 1 overall to the Pirates, starting pitcher Benedict Vick, 21 years old from Ohio. Some of the best velocity in the class, really good break as well, although a lower K/9. Then number 2, a relief pitcher, Jess Mills, who is supposed to be a very high strikeout pitcher, maybe one of the better closers in the future. Then we get to outfielder Elton Hyde, going to the Baltimore Orioles. Pretty balanced offensive approach, pretty good in the field, a little bit of everything there in his skill set. And then the top infielders went. Robert Slaughter was somebody I did think about, a really high contact hitter with good fielding, but last episode I said who my favorite player was and he didn't go. So there's no drama here. We are selecting David Geronimo, left fielder, who should be able to make an impact fairly early in his career. And we'll go through ratings for all of our players at the end of the draft here. On to round number 2, we still had a handful of selections that we had actually scouted, and I really wanted to get some starting pitcher help early in this draft. Mickey Littlefield had very high potential. There were some other options as well, but early in the draft, potential when you scouted it, it's going to be one of the most important factors, so can't pass on an 80 potential starting pitcher. We go with Mickey Littlefield. And then have a selection in competitive balance round B. I'm not actually sure how they give these picks out, but another pitcher I liked was available, so we add David Valentine, 2 19-year-old pitchers plus David Geronimo. For the rest of the draft here, I was basically guessing, but looking for certain player archetypes I thought this team needed. Floyd Brooks, good contact hitter, great in the field, great speed. That was one of my top priorities for attacking the outfield. And then we have Luis Collado, 22 years old, high potential and overall an early MLB ETA. He's an infielder that plays good defense and has pretty good speed. Then we have to work on this bullpen a little bit, and there weren't a ton of options, but Lewis Holliday, high K/9, want some strikeout upside in that bullpen. Then in the 6th round, we go to the outfield again. Early MLB ETA, pretty good ratings here for Oscar Fernandez, so he ended up being our final selection. Now, when you don't have the scouted data on these players, those numbers can be way off. Here are the true ratings for our first draft class. Off the bat, 3 potentials in the mid to high 80s. So no A potential players, but David Geronimo, I think, compares a lot to Ty Gonzalez from my Twins franchise, who was able to accelerate to the bigs very quickly. Wasn't great in the field, but was a pretty good hitter. Geronimo, I think, has a lot better speed, and hopefully his fielding is at least decent because we're going to want to see him fairly early in his career. After that, we took 2 19-year-old pitchers. Littlefield did have the much higher potential, 87, really good velocity, really good break, but it's going to be a long time before we even consider him playing at the big league level. Him and David Valentine are going to be long-term development players at pitcher. Valentine has less potential, but that doesn't mean that he won't make an impact eventually. Then Floyd Brooks, I didn't know much about him, but we get an 87 potential player with elite speed, great fielding ability. I can't wait to see him develop. I love having fast outfielders. My comparison for him would be Victor Robles from the Nationals. Then we drafted Luis Collado at second base. Again, good speed, good in the field, but he can only play one position, which is a bit of a concern. I think having that utility upside would help him a lot. Then we selected Lewis Holiday, only 65 potential, good velocity and good break though. The K/9 isn't bad for an 18-year-old relief pitcher. Hopefully he can find a way to get the potential a bit higher. And then Oscar Fernandez was the final selection, and the rating suggested he'd be closer to Geronimo in skill level, but he was actually only a 63 overall. I would say I'm pretty happy with this draft class, getting 3 players with at least 86 potential, and my favorite player in the draft that I think can help us within 2 years. That's going to be a pretty good draft, I'd say. Not a great draft, but I think it's a decent one. With the draft now behind us, the next step here in the season is to get to the All-Star break. If the game does guarantee us at least one All-Star, I think it'll either be Robert Stevenson or Daniel Bard. Not many players are highly ranked. Maybe Josh Fuentes if he gets hot before the break. But otherwise, we don't have a lot going for us. That's why we're already talking about what next year's draft could potentially do. But there are some players down in the minor leagues that I think could help us a little bit this year maybe. Colton Welker, really good September call-up candidate, I would say. And I'll be sending players up and down the minors based on how they've played the first 60 games or so of their seasons. But there aren't a lot of high potential players down in our minor league system. The highest I talked about back in season 1, or episode 1, was right fielder Zach Veen. Still think he's a couple years away from coming up to the major league level unless there's a huge development spike. So it's good for us to add some talent today to our minor league system. We only had a handful of A and B potential players, so guaranteeing at least 3 more for next year, I think, makes us a little bit stronger for our future prospects. Let's go down to Double-A for a little bit here. I talked about Zach Veen at right field. We could really use some outfield help, but we'll be patient while Veen develops. He does have A potential, should be a pretty well-rounded player. Here he is in the first inning of this matchup, striking out, unfortunately. Let's jump ahead in this matchup. Runners at the corners, and Veen swings through a 91-mile-per-hour fastball, trying to make something of this RBI opportunity, and somehow this inside-out swing didn't break the bat, and somehow he hit it hard enough to go into right field. Not a great swing, but an RBI single. Then in the 9th, Yard Goats down by 2, trying to bring them back, and this one doesn't have enough behind it. I do think that Veen's going to have some pretty good power once he's fully developed. The ratings are already in a very nice spot. Hartford ends up dropping this game, and we go back to the big league level where we are no stranger to losing this season. We're into the month of June now, and things are not going well. We dropped this game to the Oakland A's. 5 runs in the 9th. They didn't even need those. Still win 9-2. Tough outing here for Daniel Bard, who still might be our only All-Star. Then we go on a stretch here where we don't win for a whole week straight. This is tough. A 162 game grind and you just stink from start to finish. Thankfully, we're not seeing a bunch of major injuries pop up or anything, but we just can't win. We're allowing a ton of runs in this stretch as well, taking the record to 22-48. Charlie Blackmon actually leads us in home runs, which is really surprising. Story has a dozen, CJ Cron, he's sitting at 10. And for the pitching, not a lot of positives here. I mean, our highest WAR belongs to a couple of relievers who have been decent this season, but we're not getting any stability from the starters. Thankfully, we're going to get some players back from injury soon. We're going to have Ryan McMahon come back. And I think that's going to probably coincide with a Trevor Story trade. Once McMahon's back and I want a place to play both Hampson and Brendan Rodgers, I think that's probably the right time to make the move because we do need to trade Trevor Story. I wish we could make it work with him, but this team is just too far away. Let's spend some time now with the Rockies with Ace Herman Marquez. We're taking on the Milwaukee Brewers at home. And Marquez starts the day by walking Lorenzo Cain. And then against Luis Urias, unable to find the zone here, falling behind, and eventually working the count full. Urias on the ground, thrown quickly to second, a nice double play. Thankfully, too, because Marquez had a long at-bat to start with Cain, trying to get out of the first inning, and this is right off the ankle, and Yelich is going to reach on the infield single. Was hoping Marquez would be all right, and ultimately, he did not have to come out of this game. 2 on for the Brewers, and Manny Pena hitting one in the air out to right. Took 24 pitches, but a 0 on the board in the first inning. Milwaukee's got some really good pitching. We're up against Adrian Hauser, whose numbers haven't been great this season. Felt like this might be one of our more favorable matchups, at least not seeing Corbin Burns or Brandon Woodruff. Line drive knocked down, and Hampson will reach an infield single. He's been great at that, and I like him in this leadoff role. Here is Josh Fuentes at the plate, and with the 0-2 count, expecting something in the dirt, there goes Hampson for his 12th steal of the season. In the dirt again, this time chasing for strike 3. And that brings up Trevor Story, hitting .249 this season. Breaking ball misses outside. Story works this count full. And lines one, down the line, a fair ball, into the corner, Hampson scores easily, and Story puts the Rockies in front. Pitching with a lead in the second inning, Omar Narvaez looks at the sinker on the outside corner. Marquez gets his first strikeout of the ball game, and then facing Travis Shaw. That misses outside, another deep count. And Shaw with the 3-2 fouls off the changeup. And Marquez trying this again. Breaking ball going the other way, and Shaw sends this to the wall. Beat the shift with a pitch that was down and away. I'm not sure how he hit it quite that far. Shaw at second, now facing Avisail Garcia. 2-2, chasing the sinker low. Second strikeout of the inning for Marquez. Then trying to put up another 0. Here is the pitcher, Adrian Hauser. Up the middle and played by Story. But the main concern for me here early on was just the pitch count getting up for Marquez. Already 52 pitches here going into the third. Here's a drive from Christian Yelich. Didn't hit it hard enough as that is caught by Garrett Hampson. I'm really liking him in center field. Just with his range, not much is going to fall in. You have to have speed in this outfield. This might be permanent for him, especially if we have like McMahon at second and Rodgers becomes the new shortstop. We'll see. He can play all over. Marquez gets Perez to chase and picks up another strikeout. They made him pitch a lot here in the first few innings, but 3 straight zeros as we go bottom 3. Here's Story once again. Out in front of one. He's trying to put the Rockies up 2-0 with that swing. 1-2. Grounding it to the right side, and Hauser with a long run. We'll get there. C.J. Cron looking for another extra base hit. Not gonna happen here as he will strike out on the curveball. Into the fourth inning, hoping for a couple of quick innings here to keep Marquez in the game. He does get ahead of Travis Shaw, who had one battle with him earlier in the game, and this at-bat just refused to end. Another full count, and eventually Shaw draws a walk. Really good at-bat. Milwaukee was very patient at the plate. Marquez gets a 2-strike count here against Garcia. And a chopper over to the right side. Pretty easy play, but 82 pitches to get through 4 innings. Rockies still up 1-0 as we go bottom 4. Charlie Blackmon, an 0-2 count, and he's going down to drive that into center field. Base hit for Charlie. I was going to cut this part out of the episode because it wasn't super important, but hits like that for Charlie Blackmon are part of why I don't have any interest in trading him despite his contract and his age. We'll come back to him later. Adrian Hauser trying to help his own cause. Bloop single in front of Hampson. Marquez trying to get through the 5th inning and again falling behind Lorenzo Cain. Walked him to start the day and walks him again here in the 5th. Perhaps he should have come out of the game to start the inning with the pitch count already a concern and now the 3rd trip through the order. We'll walk Christian Yelich just to load the bases and avoid him. Milwaukee's lineup doesn't have a ton of power outside of him. Hernan Perez, 2-2 count, missing inside. Another full count for Herman Marquez. Grounded over to short. Wasn't pretty, but it's 5 shutout innings for Herman Marquez, the ace of the Rockies, perhaps for years to come. Raimel Tapia, pinch hits for him in the bottom of the 5th inning. Unfortunately, his season hasn't been as good as I was hoping for. He had a nice 2020. And now a drive out to right center. Hit pretty well. This one's back and Tapia goes yard. It's his 4th of the season. 438 feet. Coming off the bench to put the Rockies up 2-0. Here's Josh Fuentes. Going the other way with it. Hauser left it up and that'll get into the corner. Fuentes reaches with a double. Hauser looking to get through the 4th and CJ Cron sends one to left center. Back it goes. Another home run for the Rockies. A 4-0 lead. 11th for CJ Cron. And I suppose he's another player we'd have to consider to trade at the deadline. He's just on a 1-year contract and some team out there may want his power. But Charlie Blackmon will not be traded. Not with how good of a contact hitter he can be. Even with 2 strikes, the contact swings with him go extremely well. I get that he's 34. I get that he's paid over $10 million a season. But he's still under contract for a couple more years, and I think that he helps stabilize things in the lineup for us. Let's go to the 6th inning now. Antonio Senzatella seeming to do a bit better now coming out of the bullpen for a couple innings at a time. And there's the lovely shift helping us end the inning. Brendan Rodgers' first appearance of the day. Had a really nice episode last time out and almost has a double down the line. 1-2 from Eric Lauer. Grounded again, hugging the line. Tough play at 3rd. How about the throw from Travis Shaw? That was nice. Carlos Estevez comes out of the bullpen in the 8th inning. And he's facing Luis Urias. And he ends up walking him on 6 pitches. Hernan Perez with 1 down, line drive into right field, 2 aboard for the Brewers. Then Manny Pena, 2-1, that one misses, can't get a call. End up with a full count, and that doesn't get the call either. So the bases are loaded for the Brewers. Here is Omar Narvaez, and another full count. I can't believe how many of these there were, but a payoff pitch. Narvaez lines one the other way. It gets down. It hits the wall. 2 score for the Brewers, and 2 more will be in scoring position as it now becomes a save situation. Come on, Daniel Bard. 11 for 15 in save opportunities, which really isn't all that great. Travis Shaw. Some good defense, some good walks drawn. The bases are loaded again. Avisail Garcia in the air to right center field. Playable for Hampson, but that is deep enough to tag, and the Brewers get another run. And then go to their bench. Here is Keston Hiura, hitting .295 on the season. One more hit and the game is tied. But we're going to another full count. And it missed. Can't get any close calls. Bases loaded. Here is Lorenzo Cain. 2-0. Line drive up the middle. The Brewers will tie it. Hampson comes up throwing. They'll wave the runner home, and Shaw scores as well. The Brewers bring it back from 4-0 to leading 5-4. Another letdown for the Rockies. Can they tie the game in the 8th? Charlie Blackmon, 2 hits on the day already. Strikes out on the slider. Rockies do not score in the 8th, so we head to the 9th. Robert Stevenson, who might be our only all-star, gives up the opposite field homer to Christian Yelich. It just barely got into the first row. Brewers scoring 6 unanswered. I kinda just wanted to get bottom 9, so I simulated, not expecting another home run. The Brewers end up scoring 8 unanswered runs, all in the 8th and 9th innings. Elias Diaz gets a double, and then Josh Fuentes 2-2, chasing one. That's your ball game. Another loss for the Colorado Rockies. Certainly wasn't expecting us to lose this way, but when you lose like 50 of your first 70 games, you're going to find a few different ways to take the L on that day. We're not going to watch a whole lot more of this season. If we do, it's going to be focused on certain players that are developing, but I think at this point we can kind of watch like a game a month or something and get through the rest of this season rather quickly. I'm thinking next time we'll get to the All-Star break. Maybe we do a Trevor Story deal. Maybe we just get to the All-Star break and watch the Derby and play the All-Star game. What would you like from the rest of the year? I'm sure there are some who would be content just simming to the offseason at this point. We're not going to spend another 9 episodes this season, but maybe a couple just to get to the end and check on some players who are developing. We haven't spent much time in the minor leagues, although we're kind of playing like a minor league team anyway, so it's almost the same. That's going to do it for this episode, everybody. Rockies lose, but hey, the draft was fun. I enjoyed that part. Please leave a like and subscribe to the channel and leave your thoughts down below. I'll see you all in the next episode with more Rockies. Have a great day.